I wanted to talk about what it's like to be a loser. And really, this is addressed to all the people out there who might feel like they aren't good enough in life. And I know that sometimes I feel that way. And the little known secret is that everybody sometimes feels that way. And I think that in the past, I felt that way a lot more. And I also think that there's something to be said for the path to not feeling like that isn't to get really good. And the best way I could illustrate this would be in gaming. Pretty much any game you play, especially if you're into RPGs and MMOs, is going to try to convince you to keep on getting better. You're going to start off in the tutorial zone, and then you're going to kill a few low-level monsters, and then you're going to migrate out of the tutorial zone. And you're going to start killing higher level monsters. And as soon as you get to a point where you're able to kill those, then you're going to get pushed out of that zone and into whatever the next level of difficulty is. So as you get better, the world around you is going to get progressively harder. So functionally, there's not really any difference between being in the tutorial zone when the enemy you're fighting is level 2 and you're level 1, or being level 200 in a zone where the monsters are 201, right? And that's kind of how life is. Life is always going to be trying to convince you that you aren't good enough and you need something more. And if you could be happy, then that doesn't really serve the system, right? Because how do you sell things to people if they have everything that they want? And so there's this weird sort of a trick. It's a trick where the world wants you to feel like you're behind. It wants you to feel like you're not good enough. It wants you to always compare yourself to others, and it also wants to make sure that there are systems in place to make it easy for you to compare yourself with people who are somewhat better than you are. You see, we could look at other people and we could say, why do people want to virtue signal? Why do they want to make it look like they're doing better than other people? Well, it's not just because they're bad people. It's because the system is designed in a way that makes them feel like the best way for them to get ahead is by putting down somebody else. So they will go out of their way to try to share content that's going to make other people feel inferior. And social media tends to make that worse. There's a lot of cases where it's just not really very easy to live a life that is focused just on doing what brings you joy and happiness. But the crazy thing about all this is that as I look at the lives of people who are quite successful materially, in many cases much more successful than I am, they don't have peace in their life. And to illustrate this, I'm going to use the guy who was my boss for a decade and a half as a great example. We're spending time together. We're talking about life. And he says he feels lost. He feels kind of like he can't find a place that really exactly feels like home. he just isn't really feeling it. He feels like he's not good enough. He feels like he's running out of time. He feels like he can't get to a place where he genuinely has peace with his life. He can't slow down. He can't enjoy life. He can't relax. All he can think about is that nagging sense that maybe he's not good enough. And he needs to do the next thing, whatever the next thing is, but he doesn't even really know what that means. And then he has that nagging worry. You know, life only goes on so long, and what do you do when you keep on looking for the pot of gold at the foot of the rainbow, but you never can really find it? And then you realize you're going to run out of time in life before you ever actually find it. And then there's me, you know, like I don't have all the answers. I don't have a lot of money. I don't really have anything to brag about. But I also don't have any debts. I'm not beholden to anyone. And I can make time in my life for anything that I wish to make time in my life for. So my cup is pretty empty, and I can fill it with whatever. If I want to play games because I think that they're cool, I can do that. If I want to spend a day hiking on a trail somewhere, I can do that. If I want to make a new friend, I can do that. It really doesn't matter. Like, I can do whatever I want to do. And it turns out one of the things I do like to do is play computer games. So going full circle, I have started playing games differently than the way I used to. I don't focus at all on progression. Now, as you play a game, you are probably going to progress. You're going to do quests. You're going to get stronger as a character if that's a thing in the game that you play. But I play games where I can log in when I want and play however I want. Take the Elder Scrolls Online. It's a MMORPG. It's the one that I'm playing here as I make this video. And the truth of the matter is I can go anywhere in the map I want. I can do whatever content I think is intriguing to me. Or I could do none of it. I could choose not to do any quests and instead just gather resources and sell them on the market board and use the money from the materials I sell to buy cosmetic furnishings to decorate a house that I have in the game. That's actually oftentimes what I am doing. Sometimes I do a quest, but I don't have to. The game doesn't punish me for not doing them. And so why am I doing it? Well, I'm just doing it because I like to hang out in the world of Tamriel and maybe learn a little bit of lore here and there. Maybe just take in the soundtrack and the environment of the game. That's all there really is to it. And it's a beautiful experience. It's not about min-maxing or anything like that. And that's kind of how I live my real life too. Because what really made me fall in love with games, adventure games, RPGs, always was the idea of being an adventurer in a mysterious, amazing world. It's about taking in the simple sights and sounds of a place that's fantastic. It's about the place more than it is about you as a player. It's about stopping and smelling the roses. It's about looking at a tree and wondering what might be hidden in the hole in its trunk. It's traversing the same old paths over and over again until they become familiar paths that feel like home. I've experienced that living in Montana by myself, going for long walks around my neighborhood. And I've realized that you can have a rich experience just going out your door at night and looking up at the sky, or walking through the park looking at chipmunks and little animals and bugs and different plants and taking in the ambience of it all. Or maybe once in a while going to hang out with a good friend if you happen to have one. But it's that idea that life should be lived without an objective that really sticks with me. And when I talk to someone like my old boss and I look at this person making a $500,000 a year salary, and they've got the successful family, they've got the successful career, they've got a pretty good roadmap for the future, they've got their religious beliefs, their church that they believe in and are part of. They've got all of the trappings of what one would look at as signs of success. There's nothing that you can point out and say, you know, if they just had this one thing different, then their life would be good. They've got all of those things. Properties, real estate. So what do you tell a person like that has all of the material things, but they're not happy? What do you tell somebody like that who probably looks at me in a way and envies the freedom that I have? Because if I want to spend my day doing something random, I can. He can't. If I just want to hang out with somebody without having any political reason for it or business reason for it, I can do that. If I just want to load up the Elder Scrolls Online and collect random plants because that feels cathartic to me, I can do that. My cost of living is low, so I don't need a high-paying career in order to be able to put away money. See, I live a simple life, and I'm glad for the life that I have. And it's also true that right now in my life, I am alone, and I would like to have a satisfying, fulfilling relationship. And in time, perhaps that will come, and I'll have a chance to make that all fall into place. But I also look back as someone who did have a relationship that didn't work out. And I look at people who have families, and I think about how what really matters, if you consider all the things you'll experience in life, what really matters is being able to spend time doing things you love and with people who you love. That's really what matters. The salary doesn't matter at all. And if I had a chance to do things over or to rekindle a relationship, that's a lesson I'd really take to heart. I fully intend to. It doesn't matter how much the salary is. Like I will never take a job that means that I would not be able to spend time having hobbies or spend time with my family. I'm never going to take a job that is so serious that it doesn't give me any opportunity to look at life through the lens of imagination, because I know how empty it is to be trying to chase some sort of a path up a corporate ladder, only to realize that the reality is that nobody really cares. All it is a gear treadmill, just like an MMO, where you can keep on leveling up your gear score or champion rank or whatever you call it. And in the end, no one's going to care. No one's going to care about your career achievements any more than they're going to care about your rank in World of Warcraft or something else like that. There's the illusion that it matters. But the reality is the only thing that really matters is that you love your life every day and that you spend your life with other people who you love too. That you make other people feel valued and loved and respected. That's what matters. And those are not things that any career guidance will tell you. The system will always want you to stay on the treadmill. But the reality is that's not the path to peace. The path to peace is to accept that your goal in life should be first love and peace and acceptance of your life as it is. Then after that, when you learn how to be fulfilled in life in general, then maybe all of those other things like money and outward success, maybe they come, and if they come, that's okay. Let them come. But those are not the primary goal. And the world will always try to tell you, you have to chase success. And if you can do that well enough, if you can obtain enough success, then you will be able to have peace and love and all of those things. The reality is there's a lot of people out there who the happiest time in their life was when they had nothing. The happiest time in their life, kind of like playing games, was when they were new players, right? When you logged into the server for the first time and it was just a new, exciting world and you were just exploring the tutorial zone with no idea of what lay ahead. The veteran rank isn't what made you love the game. It was the tutorial zone. That's the crazy thing, right? It was when you weren't taking it seriously. It was when you didn't have anything. It was when there weren't any obligations, when there weren't any practicalities, and it was just you with nothing but the inventory in your pocket and your backpack trying to explore something new. That's what matters. So if you think that you're unhappy because you're behind, you think you're unhappy because you haven't done enough in life, you think that you're not going to have a good, fulfilling life because other people have more money than you, or they have better jobs than you, or whatever it might be, better social lives. The reality is most people who you can find in a social setting, they don't really care about you. And a great example of this would be try exiting social media. Give your phone number to people who you want to have it, the people who you'd be happy to stay in touch with if they wanted to. And then just leave people alone. And if they want to talk to you, they're going to have to pick up the phone and call. And just wait and see how many of those people are going to pick up the phone or send you a text message when there's no business reason for it, when they stand to gain nothing, when it's not posting something on social media in hopes that they can measure up or compare themselves to you or brag or boast. when it's just you being available to people and allowing them, if they choose, to connect with you on a human level. How many people are really going to pick up the phone? And the reality is very few will. Now, there are a few who will. And those are the connections that you should take care of. Those are the connections that you should be aware of and think about and invest in. Because it's the people who show that they are capable of loving you without any expectations that deserve your investment. We talk a lot about loving others, and we talk about the importance of service. As the philosopher Hillel said, if I am for myself only, then what am I? And if I am not for myself, then who will be for me? And if not now, when? Well, you can't fill a cup that is already filled, which is why sometimes it's important to walk away from things that are toxic, things that aren't there to help you. Those relationships and people that you want to hang on to because something is better than nothing, but the reality is all they're doing is making you feel worse about yourself. All they're doing is trying to prove that they're better than you while they try to hold you down. Whether that's directly or just in terms of the kind of signals that they're sending, the kind of energy that they're putting out into the world. You want to surround yourself with the right kind of people. And it's also true that you cannot help others if you don't first help yourself, because if you are empty, you can't really fill others. A candle that is burned out can't really light another candle. And a candle doesn't lose anything by lighting another. So light your fire first before you decide that you're going to try to help others light theirs. But you also can't really do that if you don't take care of yourself and purge out the things that are just adding noise and distraction in your life without adding actual value. Learn to be alone and really just have a conference hour with yourself. And add it all up. Where do you stand? Where are you at? Who really is your friend and who really is just a name on a list, and you'd be better off to just let them go. Sometimes we like to hang on to our familiar mythology instead of looking at the truth of things. Sometimes the best way to experience life is solo. That doesn't mean you don't want to share your playthrough with somebody else. But I was thinking about how when I go on a hike by myself, I tend to take a lot of pictures, and I tend to rest when I need to rest, and I tend to pause to take in the view and all of that kind of stuff. When I go with somebody, it's a lot more difficult, because then I have to worry about keeping up with the other person. I have to pace myself to match what they want to do. If I want to be quiet and pause, I can't do that because the other person's probably got something to say. So instead of it being a meditative experience, it winds up being a busier one. Learn how to be alone. Truth is, when you're alone, it's a lot easier not to worry about comparing yourself to other people too. Because what are they going to do? See, the thing is, when people try to compare themselves to others just because they're obstinate, they're not willing to go out of their way to do it. Like if they have to go find you and they have to pick up the phone and call you or something, like, nah, they'll just disappear. But then when you get your life a little more simple, you just live below your means, spend time doing things that you enjoy, have time for people who show that they care about respecting your time, and let go of everything else. Then you'll realize that even if you don't have a lot, you are probably doing better spiritually than a lot of people who are higher on a corporate ladder or higher on the economic totem pole. And that's something that it took me a while to realize, that it's not about how much money you make. It's about how good of a steward you are with the money that you have. It's not about success. It's about how able you are to spend your time in a way that brings joy into your life. There's a lot of people making a lot of money and they're still thinking, maybe one day I'll have time to have hobbies after I turn 65. Well, if you're lucky, maybe you can have a good life when you turn 65. But wouldn't it be amazing if you could have some of that good life closer to your prime, when you had the energy, when you had the time? People say, well, one day I'll have time to spend time with my kids. Well, yeah, and your kids are going to grow up and they're going to be gone. And they're really probably not going to forget the fact that you weren't there for them. And you can have excuses, but the reality is, when people say they don't have time, that's not because they don't have time, it's because they don't care. That's the reality. And if you don't care about people for long enough because you're always chasing success, eventually you'll be left with nothing other than your success. And that's a pretty lonely place to be, as the number one person in an empire of one. Just like that queen who, in the fairy tale, looked at the mirror and said, who's the fairest one of them all? And then, she wanted to make sure that there wasn't anyone fairer than her. So if someone was, she'd put them out of their misery. Well, how beautiful are you if the way you secure your beauty is by eliminating anyone else who could be a contender? Success doesn't matter if you pay for it with your soul. So focus on fulfillment first. And don't worry so much about whether you're good enough. I drove through the cemetery today, just for no reason, because I happened to be driving by it, and I thought I'll just drive through it. So I did. And I was thinking about how there's people with big tombstones and people with obscure ones, and probably some people who don't have any tombstones at all. But the crazy thing is, it doesn't matter whether you are successful or not, because even the most successful people are still silent in the graveyard. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. As always, good luck on your adventures out there. Till next time, thanks for watching.